Hello and welcome to The Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely, and with me today, of course, is Peter Lavelle, co-founder of The Gaggle and host of Artie's talk show, Crosstalk. As the days go by and the media pronounce the election over and done with, and Joe Biden having been elected president, and Kamala Harris, vice president, some of the zealots on the Democratic side appear to be sharpening their knives, imagining that there's going to be a real bloodbath in the coming days in which supporters and champions and former employees of Donald Trump will be punished. The exact nature of the punishment hasn't quite been specified, but one can easily imagine there will be an effort made to prevent them from further employment. Doubtless, the resources of the US government will be deployed against them through the IRS, through the Department of Justice. And in general, there's a hope that they will be socially ostracized so that no respectable person will want to have anything to do with them.
And if you want to publish something, they'll go after the publisher.
Forget publishing. That's a very good point. And yes, forget having any presence on Twitter or Facebook or anywhere on the media, so that you will become an unperson, and not just an unperson, but maybe an unperson behind bars and penniless. So there seems to be a project afoot, championed by people like Peter Buttigieg, who's slated apparently to have a position in the Biden administration, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Yes, I think in general, you can make life extremely unpleasant for very many people. How far this will go, is anybody's guess, but it's not really very nice. Peter, what's your take?
Well, it just shows you what their mindset is, and it's not about ideas; it's about power. And if you have the power, you have the ability to punish. And you're right. These are just a group of zealots, but that's how these things usually start, because they intimidate people. And we already have evidence of cancel culture. Though they're going to go to the next level. And the problem is that you have to remember how Russiagate went. Remember, with every passing day, week, and month, you had to go more and more extreme in the traitorous behavior of Trump and his surrogates. Okay, and they just kept going down that rabbit hole, deeper and deeper and deeper. This is going to happen. That's the paradigm, and they're going to apply it. And they're going to go after the big fish, Mnuchin and stuff like the people like that. Just set as an example here. Well, I just thought, I don't know about you, I couldn't watch it to the end, Joe's speech. It just was, I just had other things to do. But this, we have to unify, we're one country. And so the people on his coattails are acting like the Stasi right now. Okay. Hey, Joe, you going to tell them to knock it off? Hey, Joe. That's what they always said about Trump, and the Proud Boys tell him to knock it off. Okay. Mm-hmm. No, he won't do that. Okay. Because he can't alienate his base. And unfortunately for the American people, that is part of his base. There's a part of his base that is obnoxiously intolerant. Okay. Yep. And they have no belief in politics. They have no belief in democracy, because politics and democracy talk about negotiating a settlement. That's what it's always about. These people don't want to negotiate. They want to take prisoners, and they want executions, metaphorically, of course.
Right. And that's exactly right. So we have the Department of Justice, which Donald Trump failed to get his hands around throughout his term. In other words, all of the Obama holdovers stayed on. And these are extremely unpleasant people. And they will indeed use the powers of government to persecute their political enemies. They did it during the Obama years, and more seriously, they did it in the latter part of the Obama era, in which they targeted the incoming Trump administration. This is the FBI, of course. which will now pass clearly into the sort of the Democrat control. And then you had the Department of Justice. This is the one thing they're going to be able to do. Even their domestic agenda will probably be hamstrung from the start, because if they don't have a majority in the Senate, then pretty much all of their big legislative programs are dead on arrival. But they can certainly use the levers of power to persecute people. And there's no question that all these people like Sally Yates and the creatures that Sally Yates will bring with her will indeed do that. And as we've seen in the case of Michael Flynn, that is a very serious business. You know, you lose your home, you lose your reputation, you lose all your money. Yeah, that, you know, and as far as they're concerned, mission accomplished.
Don't you think that, excuse me, because they won't be able to pursue a legislative agenda, at least some big things, this will be a substitute for it, won't it?
Absolutely.
Because this kind of mindset is a politics of motion. It's a virtue signaling. It's showing your credentials, okay, and being pure. Because this whole administration is going to be a purity test, okay. Yes. And because they won't be able to get a whole lot done, I mean, the Senate can hold up cabinet position. I mean, they can make it really, really nasty, okay. And they will be nasty because you know, what goes around comes around, okay? And I don't see these people wanting to break this deadlock, not at all. They wanted, because they won't be able to get anything done, they're just going to go out and do this, because that's what they're best at, okay? But they're, you know, destroying. They don't build, they don't make, they don't create, okay? And they don't reach out for compromise. So buckle up. We'll see who the first few people are. But, you know, and another thing, I sent you that link from the American Conservative here. You know, by the time I finished reading that article on this topic, I just thought, it's another grift, isn't it? We need money to go after the enemies, okay? Right. And, you know, so you're to be, you know, the Trump Accountability Project czar, okay? And so we get raised money for it. It'll be another grift, and then they'll have their whiteboard and who we got now and who's in our who's on our target sites, and you know, that's what it's going to be, another grift, okay?
Yeah,
it doesn't really add
a lot of money, of life. Yeah. Absolutely, a lot of money going into that. And of course, they will be working hand in glove with the Justice Department. And you can imagine they're doing lots of research and then passing it on to the DOJ, much as the Clinton campaign was passing on the Steele dossier to the DOJ and the FBI. Here, why don't you go work with this? Which they did. Basically, a political campaign hit job became the fodder for an FBI investigation and FOIA application. So yeah, this is clearly what will happen, and it's, you know, because the last 4 years the Democrats have failed to present any kind of a serious agenda beyond Trump is a racist, misogynist, homophobic, fascist. And in the creature of the Kremlin, they really don't have anything else. I mean, what are they going to go with? I mean, if one tries to think of it, well, what's the Biden agenda? What is it? What are the three things Biden wants to do? Well, okay, he wants to mandate the wearing of masks, and what else?
It's unconstitutional, so that's just. Yes. I mean, that's just genuine. That's just virtue signaling, okay?
Right.
I mean, hey Joe, in case you didn't know, you were a senator for forever. You know, the governors can do what they want. Trump learned the hard way, okay? So. You know, this will be a substitute for policy. It's a great grift. Mm-hmm. And you know what it will be. You know, your claim to fame is who you took down. That's what it'll be. I took this guy down. I took this woman down. Okay, and then they'll be on the cable. And how'd you do it? And how can you give some tips on how to do it to others? Sure, I can do that. Okay, I've started my own podcast on it, and you know, there's audiobooks now, and just go on and on and on.
And exactly, and what will happen is that the media, and by that I mean CNN, MSNBC, will be working alongside the Trump Accountability Project because they have nothing else to do. I mean, a Biden White House is the most boring thing in the world. I mean, they have a serious problem on their hands. You know, people are just going to turn away from them in droves. So I have to substitute it for something, and what are they going to substitute it with? Well, either an obsessive coverage of what's Trump doing today, and what meeting is Trump organizing today, and then they look, hey, this Trump person, this is some very sinister doings. Hey, can we get him fired from this law firm? Hey, can we have the IRS come and investigate him? That's all. That I can be absolutely sure. Maddow will spend the next 4 years persecuting and pursuing all the former Trump people.
Yeah, because to use the famous phrase, and you've already used it in the last couple of days, you won't have Trump to kick around anymore. Of course, echoing Richard Nixon during his failed gubernatorial race. Yeah, and but so what you do is that this is the post-Trump purge. Okay, so you tried to do it for 4 years, and now you've just slightly tweaked it. Okay, because you know what, George, they desperately need Trump.
Right.
Because their whole business model is focused on him, because he's in their brain and will always be there. Okay, so we're going to have 4 more years of the what is it? The Trump administration in exile. Okay,
right.
The exile administration. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's exactly right. You had a little bit of that during the Obama years, because the media didn't want to cover Obama in any critical way. So they continued talking about George W. Bush. So years go by, you switch on the television and there's a late night comedian. He's still making jokes about George W. Bush. You think, well, hey, we're already into the second Obama term and you're still talking about Dick Cheney, because they couldn't do it. They couldn't bring themselves. Well, in the case of Obama, because they were in love with Obama. But in the case of Biden, they would just be bored rigid. Biden's not going to hold any news conferences. I mean, he since he hasn't held any news conferences during this election, he's not going to start now. And if you ask Biden a hard question, he will just simply get his usual aggressive self. Hey, don't you dare talk about my son. Do you want to sort it out outside?
Come on, man. Come on, man. Hey. On the Oval Office door, it'll have a sign, "Do not disturb." Okay.
That's
okay.
It.
End of story.
Yeah.
So we have to also expect those people that want to avoid the dragnet of this insidious project, kiss and tell books. Okay, or turn state's evidence, get yourself a gig on CNN. Well, when I was in the Trump administration, I saw this, and there'll be plenty of those too that'll come out of it. Of course, there'll be the lowest level people. Okay, but they're going to cash in. The grift is good. Okay, there's an appetite for it. So yeah, and what does it do? It targets integrity. Okay, and that's what it is. All right, and you know what? People will become. They're just going to. Silence people. That's what it is, silencing people.
Yes, that's exactly. And they gave serious consequences, not just the legal consequences, but even the social consequences. And if you can't get a job, if your law firm refuses to rehire you because they don't want their reputation sullied by any Trump association, can't get an academic position, can't get a think tank position. I mean, these are some painful consequences, and without question, this will happen. But what's also interesting is how these zealots are completely misinterpreting this election. There was no Biden mandate. I mean, if you just look at the raw numbers, in terms of the percentage of the popular vote, Biden's margin over Trump is, I think, slightly smaller than Hillary Clinton's percentage margin over Trump. In 2016, Trump won a very narrow race in a few key states. Biden has reversed it. He's won a very narrow race in the same few key states. That's it. That's all that's happened. So to interpret this as some kind of a mandate, a sweeping victory, like FDR in 1932 or the Labor government in 1945, no, nothing like that has happened. That's just assuming that these legal challenges fail, which we can't assume for the time being.
Yeah, but it certainly sets the tone, doesn't it? I mean, we're only a couple of days away from the election, and this is the tone that they're saying. I mean, I read these remarks on Twitter. I mean, the viciousness of it all. I mean, the bloodthirst of it all.
Right.
And this is how it's starting. I think we really nailed it on the head. They won't have anything else really to do. And the media needs to keep a Trump element in their rundowns, okay? Because covering the Biden White House.
Otherwise, it's mass layoffs at NBC and at CNN, because if people aren't watching, advertisers go away, and then you've got a real problem on your hands. So they're going to have to do this.
But another thing, what it does is it really sours people going into public service. I mean, let's face it, George, I don't want to be cruel or anything, but a lot of mediocre people go into public service. It's going to be even more mediocre, okay? I mean, because if you're a talented person, why would you do that? I mean, You can make money, you can be creative in other ways, okay? And so, I'm not. I should avoid going into public service because I can be tainted by the boss, okay? It's really, really pathetic, there's people are keeping score, and this is what happens. When you're vulnerable, when it's our turn next, I remember you. Okay, this is vindictiveness. It's a politics of being vindictive. That is just in the middle of the worst economic turn down since the Great Depression during a pandemic, and you guys want to play this kind of game. It's really pathetic.
Yes. And it's interesting. Now, the Republicans are, of course, not as, particularly in the Senate, they're not as ruthless as the Democrats. But you can see quite a number of them would just simply refuse to confirm any cabinet secretaries. There'll probably be a few of them, who will go over, like Mitt Romney, Richard Burr, they'll go. But you can just imagine pretty much any cabinet secretary would be confirmed by kind of a 51-49 majority, 52-48. I mean, it's going to be a struggle for any of them to get confirmed, because they'll remember every single Democrat voted against Amy Coney Barrett. And almost every time, there was just one Joe Manchin who voted for Kavanaugh, but every other Democrat voted against Kavanaugh. So he'll say, well, why should we cooperate with you? Why should we just simply rush off and confirm Elizabeth Warren as Treasury Secretary? I said, no, we're not going to do it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And this is what it's, and of course, judicial appointments. I mean, Mitch McConnell is there. I mean, Praetorian Guard, he's not going to let anything go through there.
No.
Yeah, I mean, if this is the tone they want to set even before the administration starts, I mean, this is going to be a very lackluster 2 years ahead of us. Okay,
very much so.
Because I think the way things are set, I mean, it's so early, and we're not even in inauguration day. But I think of 2022. If the economic situation doesn't improve for the working people, okay. There's going to be a reaction to it, because just as you've said, and I'll echo your words here, this was close. Right. And this is what's making, they're so myopic about it, is that we've turned back the clock. We're back at 2016. No.
Exactly. It's a mirror reversal. Trump won a very narrow one in 2016, winning those 3 key industrial Midwestern states. Biden has won a very narrow one in 2020, winning those same 3 key states. In every one of them, his margin is less than 1%. So it's a wafer thin victory. So, I mean, for the Democrats like Pelosi to come on and say you have a mandate, nothing of the sort.
What I was just thinking is that, after this 4 years, this onslaught, this trench warfare, and, pulling out every single weapon in your arsenal, and now the dust is beginning to settle, right. And the winner is the old man on the couch barking at you when he gets angry. Okay, buyer's remorse. Right. Mark my words.
It is kind of hilarious, because all of those memes of weekend at Biden's, it's entirely appropriate, because it really is. You keep dragging this person around with his sunglasses. I mean, yeah, absolutely appropriate.
I can't wait for him to go into negotiations with the Chinese President Xi. He's going to say, what? We remember, Joe, we remember when you had better days, when you were in China,
Yes,
when
yes.
you had better days.
Yeah, exactly. Can you imagine? Yeah, exactly. He goes to Beijing. He's going to need how many hours to decompress after the long trip? Probably about 36 hours, during which time the negotiations have already come and gone. I mean, okay, back on the plane, Joe, up to Washington.
No, they'll just put him at the negotiating table. You won't say anything, and then all of his aides will say what Joe means to say.
Right.
Would he like to reply to that as, okay.
Right.
Again,
And then of course,
since we're bringing up tone here, I think that, you and I like to have a good chuckle every once in a while, but his physical state is a serious issue here, okay? And again, buyer's remorse. So when the country really is so terribly, it's more divided now as a result of the election and with the economic situation and COVID. You need someone a strong leader, and that's a part of the American tradition. People do react to strong leadership. My father fought in the Second World War, and he was a dyed-in-the-wool Republican. His family was very Republican, but in 1944, my father told me, he said he voted for FDR. He said because he's leading the country during this great epic struggle here, and that's how a lot of people felt,
Right.
And
right.
we
No,
need
I think that's right, and I think those stupid European leaders who rushed to congratulate Biden just because the media said, "Oh, he's over the top. He's past the 270 mark," and then people like Macron and Boris Johnson rushed to extend their congratulations, even though nothing is basically decided. I mean, the votes haven't been certified. Trump hasn't conceded, but they rushed to do it. They're going to regret it because they're going to look back quite soon on the Trump years as being actually pretty good years. America did its thing. They were allowed to do their thing. Once with Biden there, and suddenly we have new missions for NATO. And let's get back in, let's involve ourselves in Syria once again, in Libya once again. Let's get involved with Nagorno-Karabakh and in Belarus. They're going to start thinking, not to mention Ukraine, they're going to look back nostalgically to the Trump years.
Yeah, but all this talk about Trump breaking with norms. Again, I think that these are just low-octane thinkers in the media and in think tank world, because in think tank world they get paid to peddle ideas. Okay, it's not necessarily their own ideas or even good ideas. But what I think is there is a natural tendency for the United States to start decoupling from these places, okay? Because the international order is changing and evolving, and that's assuming that they want the Americans around all the time, like the Middle East, okay? I still think there's this. Because it is a strategic backwater, there is no real strategic sense in staying there. I mean, rhetorically, Trump, with the peace deals and all that, but it isn't changing that trajectory. Okay,
that's exactly right, and I think that's really the problem. You have this entity called NATO land, and it has to justify itself. And it justifies itself by continually drumming up supposed threats to the West and therefore that NATO has to address. And Trump pretty much said, I don't understand the point of NATO. I mean, all right, I'll go along with it because all of you seem to be very keen on it, but I don't see the point of it. With the return of the normalcy, we'll be back to, boy, we need NATO and we need it bad because of all these horrible, terrible security threats to us.
But one interesting caveat here, and I think you and I'll be will shoot straight here. I mean, if the Biden administration is interested in arms control, I would say go for it. I'm a policy person here. If they want to start renegotiate the START agreement with Russia, I'm all for it. But see, as you and I have talked about previously, if you reach out and give an overture to the Kremlin about this, the Kremlin's going to say, well, there's a couple other things we need to deal with also. Okay, linkage. Okay, And so, I mean, if the Biden administration is interested in arms control, they're going to have to give something up. They're going to have to make some kind of compromises,
Well,
which
that's
would be a good thing for
yeah,
both
well,
countries.
yeah,
Okay,
that's, yeah, well,
I don't wish for failure. Okay, I
right,
don't.
but that's really the point. That's as you know, from the Russian perspective, the Obama years were horrible, and it doesn't matter that they signed the New START treaty with Obama. What other things that Obama did were much more problematic for Russia because of what he did in Ukraine, because of what he did in Syria, what he did in Libya. Those affected Russian security much more than arms control. That's very nice, but it's not something that is an immediate problem for them. And that's what they're going to look forward to with an Obama administration, because the people who are going to come in with Biden are fanatical Russophobes, and they are going to want to reignite all of the conflicts and all of the crises on Russia's periphery. You can absolutely be certain of it, that they will get,
Well, you know, it's interesting.
Karabakh, that they will get involved in Belarus, probably in Kyrgyzstan. You know, there's just no question. That's their mindset.
Yeah, and the sad thing is, or not sad, the what is going to happen? It's going to be the interagency consensus. It's not going to be Biden. He's just going to let the interagency consensus do what they're going to do. Okay, seriously, I believe it.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, that's who these people are. I mean, you know, so yes, they'll do a rhetorical thing. Oh yeah, we need arms control because it's just something that, you know, Democrats have traditionally, you know, been in favor of. But the important thing is that they are going to reignite those awful wars from the Obama years. And there's no question, because they want to make life as difficult as possible for Russia, and Russia knows this.
Yes.
So they're ready, you know, and getting ready for a Biden administration.
And that's why, you know, again, you just never hear this in the mainstream media. The Russians don't care who goes into the Oval Office. It's just a variation on a theme. It's the same thing. Maybe some things on the margins change, but it's always the same. It is hostility. Okay, and it's gonna continue under the Biden-Harris, Harris-Biden administration. Okay, so nothing new there. I don't see what the Russians got out of the Trump administration.
Not
okay,
much.
At all.
Not much. The one thing, I guess, is Biden did cut off funds for these jihadis in Syria, although he kind of retained the military presence and then went into bat for Turkey to protect Idlib. But at least he did cut off the funding. That Obama program of providing funds for Al-Qaeda, that Trump did bring to an end. And I think that did improve things in Syria and for Europe as well.
Yeah. Well, so
that's what we can look forward to. But imagine in 2022, I would think, because, you know, if Biden does his mask mandate and let's continue with the lockdowns routine, boy, this administration will be unpopular. I mean, people can't go on with these lockdowns and the people being driven out of work, and so we can.
Well, I mean, it was a political ploy.
Right.
That might have. We have to look at the outcomes here. It might have helped them get over the line, but I mean, these blue states, you're going to strangle them. I mean, is that what you want to do? Okay, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we'll see their perception of the pandemic when they have power. I wonder if it's going to change. And I bet you it will.
Well, that's exactly. But he has a problem on his hands, because he's made this really the centerpiece of his campaign. That's using the term rather loosely, but nonetheless, it's the one thing that he has said. He's going to, you know, set up a COVID-19 task force. Well, you know, if you're going to do that, you can't very well then turn around and say, okay, everyone back to normal. Everyone back to work, take off your masks, do what you would have done normally. You know, you can't really do that.
I wouldn't, but I think that's what's going to happen. Okay. Okay, new scientific thinking, the consensus of the, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to say, and then it's just kind of like,
We'll see.
it's gone.
I think, well, it's a good question. We'll see.
That's my suspicion.
Yeah. No, I mean, it could well happen. I'm not disputing it, but I think but there'll be a lot of people. I mean, you can't just simply say, oh well, forget what Fauci's saying, forget what all these people he's going to surround himself with, forget what they're saying. You know, we need voters to vote for us in 2 years' time. I mean, which is a sensible thing. It may not be that easy to do. You know, because again,
well, we can end on this, George. There's going to be a lot of people, particularly Republicans. They're going to go through this mail-in strategy with a fine-tooth comb. And you know what? Give them the next time round, somebody's going to perfect it and do it again and again and again and again. Okay. This was a Pandora's box that should have never been opened. Okay. Because everyone's going to regret it. Everyone.
Of course, of course. Well, I think that's it. I mean, it's another way in which COVID was utilized by the Democrats extremely skillfully. Just as they, the lockdowns, they utilized extremely skillfully by bringing the economy to a halt, which can then be blamed on Trump. And now they can say, oh, we're all too frightened to go and vote. Oh, no, we can't go, because we'll all catch COVID in the polling booths. And then everyone's out there celebrating on the streets. Hey, what happened to all that fear of COVID? Oh, well,
Whatever happened to that fear? I saw that too.
All right. So, but we will continue in the next few days while the legal challenges gather steam. We will continue with our laser-like focus on what's happening in the United States. Thank you very much, Peter. Remember, if you like The Gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.